Hey everyone, it's Kole from A+ Power Sports. Congrats on your new Ranger North Star. I'm going to do a once-over and show you how to maintain it and all the different features of your brand new machine. First, we're going to start off with service. So your first service is designed to be done at 25 engine hours. Your ride command screen or your digital display is going to show you when it's got a service required on it. After that, it goes out to 200 hours, 2,000 miles, or yearly, whichever comes first. A first service is going to consist of changing your engine oil and filter, along with the rear differential, transmission, and front differential fluid. Our air filter is located right here. Make sure you guys use Polaris factory air filters on this. I have too many issues where people run an aftermarket filter and they're ingesting too much dirt and debris into the engine. Causes issues later on down the road. So just stick to a Polaris air filter. You might have to change it out more often than you would think. Even after one trip up north of riding in really dusty conditions, you should change it. You can blow it out maybe one time, but that just compacts all of the dust particles. So always keep a spare air filter on hand and change it when necessary. Also, another thing to note down on here is our clutches and clutch cover. What you'll see is a red drain plug here. So if you go too deep in water, which I tell most people don't go above the rear tires in water, because then that can get water into our clutch exhaust outlet tube, and then water gets in here and we can't move. If that happens in a water hole or mud hole, winch yourself out. Don't rev up the engine trying to get the belt and clutch to operate. It's just going to smoke that belt. So again, winch yourself out of the water hole, get to a dry area, and remove this red drain plug. This will let all the water drain out of there. Now, there's still water on the clutches and belt, so let it sit and idle for, I tell everyone, like 5 to 10 minutes of idling. It's spinning the clutches and drying them out. Once the system is dry, reinsert your red drain plug, and you're free to drive again, and no harm, no foul. On the top of the engine, we have our spark plugs and spark plug boots. This is our engine oil fill location. So we don't fill it through the dipstick. You have to fill it through the top cap here so it washes fresh, clean oil over the valves. We're at the passenger rear side of the vehicle, and this is where we can get to our engine oil check level and dipstick. So it's between this tube here. It's got a locking pin that you pull out, and then you can pull the whole dipstick out of that tube. You can check it. Make sure when you put this back in, you seat it all the way and flip this lever. It has an expanding O-ring to keep water out. At the rear of the vehicle, we'll have 2 grease points. So our sway bar is right here, and there's a grease zerk on each passenger and driver's side. Those should be lubricated regularly or at least every oil change. Our transmission and rear differential is a married unit, so it only takes one kind of fluid called AGL. Again, make sure you're using Polaris factory oils for this. They've been tested and proven to work with it. There's an Allen head right back here that is our fill to spill check level. So you take it out, as long as you can dip your finger in it or see it visually, then it's filled. It should be like a bluish purple color. If it's darker, make sure you're changing it regularly. And I always check this doing an oil change. Our front differential fluid only holds a few ounces, located right in the front here. This is your check level. Again, it's fill to spill, so we remove that, check it, and if it's dirty, we replace it as needed. Front differential fluid is another very important fluid to change, and it's located in the front here. It only holds a few ounces, so you have to change it regularly. Our other grease points are located at the front of the vehicle on the front right and left side of the sway bar. Now we're going to access underneath the front hood. There's 2 quarter turns, and you just lift up and pull back. So now that we're underneath the front hood, we can see our air inlet tubes running for our clutches and engine. This is our window washer fluid. I just tell you what you're running in your car that time of year, you should be putting that into your Ranger. This is our Polaris pulse bar system. So if we're going to run any electrical accessories, whether it be light bars, winches, whatever electrical, don't run it to the battery. You have to run it to this pulse bar system. That way we don't have draws, and this automatically allows it to go to key power. Over on this side, we have our HVAC filter. This is going to be for heater and air conditioning. I tell most people if this is dirty, your air filter is dirty as well, and change them in conjunction with each other. Over here, we have our coolant overflow bottle. Down in the bottom, you can see a min and a max line. It should stay somewhere in between that. Once its engine is cold is when you want to check this. So typically, letting it sit for 20 to 30 minutes, you can check that. Over on this side, we have our radiator cap. And this little box here is for a wireless winch remote. This is the Bluetooth head unit controller. Okay, when we put the front hood on, we want to make sure that these little pins go back into the holes in front. We lock our 2 quarter pins up top. As long as this can't lift up, it's not going to fly off going down the road. Also, another thing to note is this front panel is removable to access our radiator. Never pressure wash this. You'll rip the fins open and you'll have coolant issues. So make sure if we get cattails or debris or mud stuck in here, we're just using a garden hose and we can wash this off and watch the water run clean. The Ranger Northstar comes factory stock with a winch. So this winch can be operated a couple different ways. So the first one is a Bluetooth remote. So this is accessed usually in the glove box where we'll put it, but you'll turn it on and you'll see the little light illuminate here, and now we can operate our in and out. This has an auto stop feature to it, so that's this little like hockey puck looking here. So as we pull it in, it automatically stops when it gets to the top there. If you're snow plowing a lot, I've seen where the ropes will cross themselves and then out is in and in is out. If that happens, we need to pull the cable out all the way and then re-spool it. Otherwise, you can run the risk of ripping this if it doesn't stop on its own and you don't physically stop pressing the button. So an easy way to do that is reach behind here. There's an unlocking tab. You can hear me hitting it there. So on free spool, we can pull this out by hand. So if you're stuck by yourself, wrap this around a tree, tie it off nicely, come back to the Ranger, click it into the locked mode, and then use the winch. Inside the cab to the left of the steering wheel, we also have a rocker switch for our in and out controls of the winch. Your Ranger has about a 10-gallon capacity fuel tank, and it's located on the driver's side rear of the vehicle. Now, fuel quality is super important in a small engine, just like a lawnmower or boat. These are no different. So I tell everyone to run premium non-ethanol fuel when you can. Now, the only time I say not to run that is in the wintertime if it's really cold. I'm talking like below 0. These vehicles have a hard time starting without ethanol fuel in them. So I tell everyone in the summertime and spring and fall, run premium high-grade fuel. In the wintertime, I'll switch to regular 87, just regular winter blend. That ethanol is needed so it ignites hot enough to start the engine in that extreme cold temperature. We're going to access the battery and fuse box. So underneath the seat, you can flip that up. There's a little storage bin under here. It is removable. Underneath here we have our battery, and it's a fairly good sized battery with lots of cold cranking amps. And our fuse box location is here as well, and it's sealed. We can open this, and you can see the different fuse locations and amperage and things like that. And it comes with spares. So make sure that's always clipped back on. Keep water out. There's also a diagnostic port. You guys will not have to do anything with that at home. That is just for dealership purpose only. The doors in the cab ceiling on a Ranger Northstar, these are heavy, beefy doors. So when we shut them, you have to shut it like you mean it so it can shut. I have a lot of people say they get home and they're like, oh, the doors are rattling. You didn't shut it all the way. This is a double locking style latch to it. So if you just let it softly close, sometimes they'll get a half click in there and they'll rattle. Shut the door like you mean it to let that seal do its job. Also with these seals, they are very thick and keep out the elements. So we have to shut them tight, and after about a few hundred miles is when you'll get the doors to seal really nicely. So it will get better at shutting, but shut it like you mean it when it's new. On the interior of our cab, we have our headlight switch. So make sure on the roads and trails, you always have a low beam on at least, but high beam and all the way off is off. Your rear tail lights, your running lights are always going to be on in the rear, along with the brake lights. You cannot shut those off. Also, we have tilt steering, so you can easily move that, and you have a seat slider, so you can slide back and forth to get a comfortable position. At the center of our dash, we have 2 rocker switches that are blank. We can add light bars and different accessories there. But starting from the left-hand side is our drive mode. So we have single-wheel turf mode all the way down. It unlocks the rear differential and lets one tire spin. Whichever one will spin the easiest is going to move the vehicle. You can drive across a golf course and not rip up the grass, so I use that in the yard. On the trails and on the roads, we should be in posi locked. Locks the rear differentials, and then 4-wheel drive should be operated when we're stuck. You can change this at essentially any speed, but I tell everyone, I would say under like 25 miles an hour is when you should adjust that. So over here we have our work, standard, and performance modes. This changes how fast the throttle responds to us and how fast the engine revs up. So in work mode, if we're doing really meticulous work getting in and out of a trailer or a driveway, I like work mode. It's very easy to drive. Standard, most of the time down the trails, I'm in standard mode. In performance mode, it's nice on the roads to get up to speed faster, or on the trails if you're gonna race your buddies, performance is kind of fun to drive in. Window wipers, we have one speed, so up, and then all the way up is a spring-loaded rocker switch, so that's our washer fluid. Now down here on the bottom, we have our fan control. So we have 1, 2, and 3. You'll hear that kick on. And you can change your temperature. So AC and heat. Make sure that this little button here, when the engine's running, this will turn green. But that kicks on our AC compressor. So only have this on when it's really hot out in the summer and you want true air conditioning. With this off and this in the blue, it's just pulling outside air in. And in the wintertime, we don't want to run the AC compressor because we want all the heat. On the very bottom of the center dash, we have a 12-volt outlet so we can charge our phones. We have a USB port so you can charge 2 phones in there with USB. And then this is a battery tender. So most battery tenders are universal. This is like a SAE plug. We plug this in and it charges, keeps the battery maintained. So battery maintainer should be plugged in there. I tell most people you should leave it plugged in unless you're using it a couple times a month. But if it's going to sit for an extended period, like over winter in a storage area, plug it into the battery maintainer and just set it and forget it. Okay, so this is our LCD screen on the center of the dash. This is on all Northstar Premiums and Ultimate Edition. So obviously we have miles per hour, RPM in an analog style. And then if you click these little up and down arrows, we can navigate different modes. So odometer, trip 1 and trip 2. If you hold down the button, it will reset your tripometer back to 0. Battery voltage, when it's idling, it should be somewhere around that 13 to 14 and a half voltage. Engine hours with the little hourglass. Service hours, so wrench with the hourglass. This is counting down from 25. So when it hits zeros, this little wrench and hourglass will start to blink at you every time that you start the vehicle. That's when you need to do the required maintenance. Engine temperature, these vehicles operate somewhere around like 180 degrees. I believe the fan kicks on at like 205. So it will set itself even in the hottest of temperatures and maintain a constant temperature for the engine. And then back to odometer. Fuel gauge, clock and timer, and then our gear selection. So reverse, park, neutral, low, and high. So braking procedure on a brand new machine is very, very important. And I tell everyone the first tank of fuel is really when we have to be very cautious with this vehicle. So driving at proper speeds, not high RPM, not heavy towing, and don't mud bog this thing for the first tank of fuel. So we want to brake in the belt, clutches, and engine properly. So that first tank of fuel really lets us get a full range of RPMs. So what we want to do is vary RPM speed. So riding on normal trails is really good for it. So coming to stop signs, twisty, windy trails, that's allowing that belt to ride up and down in the clutches, cutting the sheaves to the belt. The other thing is with a brand new belt, you need to be cautious with it. So I like to tell everyone use low gear for roughly 5 to 10 minutes around the yard and just varying that RPM, getting that belt and clutch sheave to cut into each other and have a true experience with it. So after that, still it's very important to use high and low gear properly. Low gear should be used anytime you're gonna go under, I say like 10 miles an hour. So if you're just putzing around the yard, picking up sticks or rocks or hauling something heavy and you're gonna work this engine, you should be in low gear. If you slip up one time and you're like, I was in high, I just missed it, you put a burn spot in the belt and it will be fine, but it will slowly disintegrate that belt and cause issues later on. So make sure you're very cautious in using low gear when you're supposed to. Lastly, the driver's seatbelt has an electronic seatbelt sensor in it, so if you don't have your driver's seatbelt on, you're only going to go 10 miles an hour. All right, that's my once-over on your brand new Ranger Northstar. My 3 takeaways are going to be, make sure you're always using low gear when you're supposed to, use good fuel and good oil and air filters, and you're going to have a long, happy vehicle ahead of you. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. If you have any questions, leave a comment in the section below. And if you want to check out my inventory right now, check out aplusride.com. And as always, thanks for watching.